Hector Bravo, unhinged. Chaos is now in session.
Welcome back to our channels, Warriors. We are still growing. Today we have another special guest by the name of JoJo, who just drove all the way down from LA, bro. What's up, man?
What's
How you doing?
up, man?
How was the drive, dude? Any traffic?
Just little spontaneous spots here and there, but it was pretty good. Just some construction going on, but it was all right. Cool
So,
drive.
You let me know that you were a lifer at one point and that you actually paroled.
That is correct.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up at?
I grew up in the city of La Puente, the SGV, San Gabriel Valley of LA County.
Bridgetown.
Yep, Bridgetown.
Now, were you involved in any gangs when you were growing up there?
Yeah, I was involved. Well, shoot, I was in the mix of gangs my whole life. I officially didn't get jumped into a clique until probably when I was like, I want to say 13, 14 years old. But prior to that, though, I had always been claiming Puente for a lot of years, just because that's where I was from. That's where all my neighbors were from, you know.
How much a percentage would you say your friends and family were part of that gang or culture?
I would say my friends growing up, I would say probably 90%.
Damn.
Yeah, almost all of them. I grew up on a street, Hector, with almost 25 kids, all the same age. It was a regular middle-class community. It wasn't the projects, nothing like that. It was residential homes, but there was a lot of kids my age. And, you know, we go back to the 70s where kids were running the streets, riding their bikes, playing kickball. Not like today. We didn't want to be inside. We were outside, you know, and when we're outside in the streets, you know, we saw a lot of interaction with the older kids because I'm talking about like 5 years old, 6 years old playing in the streets.
Right.
And seeing our older brothers and sisters that are already involved in gangs. We saw a lot of fighting, shooting, stabbings, running over of people. So it was a part of my life very young, that gang culture.
How big were rivalries? Were all these attacks against rivals or amongst each other?
Oh, no. Oh, man. See, when it comes to my neighborhood, it's a pretty big neighborhood with a lot of cliques. And during, you know, the 70s, 80s, even 90s, we were at war with each other. Our greatest enemy was within La Puente. Yeah, and I hate to say it like that, but
different sections?
Different sections. So we have where I grew up, which is considered East Side Puente. That's
Okay.
like on the east skirts of the city. From downtown, east side would be us. And then there was the west side, which was a lot of different cliques, which were closer to our enemies on that border. So we were surrounded by different neighborhoods, but there was really like two specific neighborhoods that we were really, really at war with outside of our own cliques. But yeah, though, I mean, growing up in my neighborhood, if somebody drove by and threw us a P for Puente, it was kind of still like our hands were on the gun, like, what part of Puente? Where you? Like,
Really?
Yeah, especially if we didn't recognize them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the way it was. You know, it's a lot different today, but
At that time or in that area, were there any racial gang issues?
not really. There was some Crips that were later on in the West Covina area, which is the next city, like kind of north of us.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really like a big factor of us gangbanging against them. But if we ran into them, we were definitely going to attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you eventually find yourself in like juvenile hall or jail? I'm sure you didn't land yourself in the big house right away, man.
Yeah, I started off in juvenile hall. And it's crazy, Hector, because back in the late 70s, early 80s, I would get in trouble for stealing, for vandalizing, for breaking into private property and stuff. And the cops would literally take me home and watch my dad whip me at the front door.
Really?
Yeah. But after a while, they're like, you know what, man, you've been getting in trouble too much. And then I get put on probation. And then by the age of 6, I was on probation probably from 13 to 15. And then that's when I hit juvenile hall. And when I hit juvenile hall for the first time, it was for my commitment offense, in which I got life for. And
when you hit juvenile hall for the first time, that was your commitment offense.
that was my commitment offense. Even though I had prior contacts with the cops, This time it was like I wasn't going home.
What was your commitment offense?
It was conspiracy to commit murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. And then I ended up having like some other intimidating witnesses cases that were attached to it. And
I don't mean to laugh, bro. You hit me with the 6 counts of attempted murder, dude.
Yeah.
Well, it must have been like a gang injunction type of shit.
well, we didn't have gang injunctions at that time, but there was the crowd in which I shot.
Oh.
They were all running at me, and I like
shit.
shot at them. So all of them were on
Dude.
file. All of them identified me as shooting in their direction and stuff. So
Now, I don't know how much you're willing to talk about that offense or crime, but like, was this like a fluke? Was this bound to happen? Was this wrong place, wrong time?
I'm gonna say wrong place, wrong time, but very common. I
Okay,
would say
very
it like
common.
that.
That's cool.
So my story in a nutshell, Hector, on that situation was I was in my neighborhood kicking back, waiting for some girls. We're kicking back in the garage, you know, me and a couple of homies kicking back. 2 other homies rode up in a stolen truck. They were like, "Hey, fool, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm just chilling, man, waiting for these broads to show up." And they were like, "Well, go with us real quick. Go pick up these other broads." And I said, "Where at?" And they told me the high school. And I was like, "Oh, man, I already knew. That's in my enemy's neighborhood.
Okay.
And I'm not messing with them girls. I'm already waiting for these other girls."
Yeah.
But because they're my homies, they're going over there. Good chances are we might get into something. So I'm like, all right, you know, let me. God honest truth though, I didn't have even a knife on me. If anything, I was thinking we'll just throw some blows or something. I didn't have a gun on me, nothing. I wasn't going over there with the intentions to gangbang, but I knew there was a possibility that we may bump into some. We're on school grounds. I'm not thinking any of them kids are they might have a knife on them. I'm not thinking no gun. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. You know what I mean? So I jump in the back seat. My 2 homies are going. We're just going like nothing. I said, "Hey, you fools better bring me right back, though. I want to come right back because I'm waiting for them girls." We go to the high school. It's about 2 o'clock. They're getting out of school, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We pick up 2 girls. Since it was a homie that was sitting shotgun, that was his interaction. I went to the front now. He went to the back with these 2 girls, right? As we're driving off the school ground, everything was cool. We didn't see nobody. Everything was cool. We got the girls. Bam, let's head back. So as we're coming back out, though, we got to cut on the street because to get into that school parking lot, you go in one way and then you got to exit
Yeah.
another way just to avoid all that traffic collision, right?
Yeah.
But in order to go that way, we had to go slightly through our enemy's neighborhood. And as soon as we were coming out, the homie that was driving, he tells me, "Yeah, the other day we chased some fools right here." And I was like, "Is that right? Where at?" He said, "Matter of fact, right there where the garage door is open." And I said, "Is that right?" So as we're going by, Hector, I look in, I said, "Oh, damn, there they are right there." And there was a bunch of them. And it looked like they were working on the driveway or something because it looked like asphalt, like, you know, the big old chunks of like tar, you know, the asphalt. It looks like there was some right there in the front yard and stuff. So when we're driving by, I'm throwing up the neighborhood and stuff, and they start throwing up their neighborhood, start flipping out, you know, just disrespecting all that stuff. And they start running out. And I seen them starting grabbing like shovels and ice picks and stuff. And I tell my homeboy, "Man, like jam, fool, you know, like
Yeah.
take off." So he goes to the corner, he makes a U-turn. And when we're right there at the U-turn, the homie in the back says, "Open up the glove compartment."
Yeah.
Big old 357s inside the glove compartment. Wasn't mine.
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
even know it was there. I grab it though, you know? And so my intentions were just to like kind of flash it at them like, "Hey, fool, like we spared you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's broad daylight. I have 2 girls in the car. My homies, they start running though. They start running at us, and I'm like, "Come on, fool! Like keep coming." I tell my homie, "Man, just run them over, fool! Like they're all in the street. Like we're in a stolen truck. We're in a 4Runner, a Toyota 4Runner." And I'm telling my homeboy, "Just run them over." And my homie in the back's like, blast them. So I'm like, it happened so fast where I got out the truck and they were still running. I'm like, "Come here, fool."
You
And
got
they were
out?
far. I got out the truck.
Yeah.
And they were still running in the middle of the street, and they were throwing pieces of that asphalt.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like coming kind of close to the car and stuff already. They were still a distance. So I just picked up the gun and I held it up and I shot at them 3 times. Like, I think it was like 3 times. Like, bah, bah. And I was like, "What, fool?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I just jumped back in the car and I told the homie, like, "Jam, fool. Like, let's jam." And I wasn't even really thinking of it as anything. So when we jam, I tell my homeboy, like, get rid of the truck, you know, because I live pretty close by there on the other side of the hill. So I tell him, hey, just drop me off at the pad, man. Get rid of these girls. Get rid of this truck, man. You know, just go do what you got to do. Because there was this spot where we used to, like, burn the trucks and, you know, all our stolen cars.
Real quick, man. I heard
yeah.
you mention stolen car, like if it was nothing, man. Was that a common thing?
It was
like
on our
like
block.
the stolen freaking
Yeah,
vehicles
on
everywhere?
our block in the 80s, we had at least 3-4 stolen cars just
What was the
parked.
technique back then? The hot wiring?
No, the technique was dent pulling.
Oh.
The technique, yeah. So a dent puller, just screw it into the ignition, and we used to just bang it out, boom. And Toyota 4Runners were like the easiest. They were like, you could ram cars with it. You could run over people with them.
It's like Grand Theft Auto, bro. You were living Grand Theft Auto, man. The video game.
At times, you know what I mean? At times. So yeah, that's what happened. I end up going home. I go and I shower. I do all the techniques that we thought we knew as being streetwise. Go home and put bleach on our hands. Well, at that time I'm putting bleach on me.
Yeah.
I think I even urinated on my hands. You know, because we knew already from prior incidents, the cops would get us and take us in after a shooting, and they would do the swabs on us and put our hands under the purple light. And if they see gunpowder, they kind of attach it to us.
But
right?
back then, there wasn't Ring doorbells like there is now.
Yeah, no, there
So
was-
how would people get caught up? Like witnesses or the other people
Witnesses,
ratting?
identification. Most of the time, it's identifying us, you know, in lineups and whatnot. So, of course, all of us, we already had our pictures in the gang file and stuff. So it's easy to bring the witnesses to the station. Yeah, it was the guys from Puente. Okay, here's the active gang members right now. Do you recognize any of them?
Right.
And that was part of it. The story twists a little bit though, because homeboy in the back seat, the one that told me about the gun, ends up turning state against me.
Of course.
So
dude.
I mean, they really didn't need any other witnesses besides him, but he ended up turning against me. And this was a homie that had barely like moved into the neighborhood too, man.
Did he turn on you because they jammed him up first and they were putting the heat on him?
Well, remember they dropped me off. They took off. They were supposed to get rid of the car, you know, get rid of the girls. Not get rid of them like that, but just drop them off, take them home, whatever.
Right.
But what happened is they end up cruising around in the stolen car right after a shooting. They end up getting into a high-speed chase. They crash.
Holy shit.
One of the girls and the guy in the back got caught. I find out about all this because I go back to my neighborhood later on in the evening. Remember, it was at 2 o'clock when it happened. So I go back to my neighborhood about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. This was in January of '89. It's already dark. And we're right by the sheriff's station, I should say, right by the sheriff's station. And we seen a gang of sheriffs just rolling. And we had police scanners and we're listening. We're like, where are they going? Where are they going? And they were like, nah, they're going to the other side of town or whatever. So I told the homies, like, hey, this is what happened earlier, you know, be on lookout. You know, we didn't have cell phones to call everybody. So I had to get there later on and tell them, hey, this is what happened. So while I'm there at the neighborhood telling the homies that are there, you know, hey, strap up just in case these fools try to come back or whatever. My homie that was driving the car, he runs through the alley. And I'm like, what's up, fool? He's all sweaty and dirty. I was like, what happened? He's like, we're in a high-speed chase, man. And he starts telling me, hey, homeboy got busted. I think one of the girls was with him, too. I was like, oh, shoot. I wasn't worried about the homie. I was worried about the girl, you know? But then again, I'm like, the girl didn't even know me. I didn't even know her. So I'm thinking she don't know my name, but she could identify me. That's you know, the thing. But I didn't know her. I've never seen her before.
But even then, you probably still, like you said, didn't think it was a big deal. You just popped a couple shots. And
yeah, I didn't think anything of it. So come to find out, I go home. I actually go home. When my homeboy said he got busted, I went home and I packed a backpack. I told my mom, hey, Mom, I'm going to have to head out for a few days. I'll call you later. You know, I got to go, though. And she's like, where you going? I said, I'll call you later. I got to go. Something happened. But before I took off, though, I called my homeboy, the one that got caught. I said, what happened? He said, they got me for GTA. I said, GTA only? That's it? And he's like, yeah, that's it. And I said, what about the girl? He said, nah, she wasn't there. And I was like, what do you mean she wasn't there? Homeboy already told me that she was with you guys still. And he's all, nah, but she didn't say nothing. Like, she didn't know, like, she was already out of the car when it happened. And I was like, what? So homeboy said it was just GTA. I'm like, okay, maybe it was just GTA. I went to the girl's house, though, and I started jamming her up. I found out where she lived. I went over there. I said, hey, let me talk to you.
Damn.
I said, what did the cops tell you? You know what they say? She said they were just asking me who was in the truck, and I just told her.
Wait a minute, didn't you tell me you got it for intimidating a witness? Was that it right there? Or
No, that's not
okay,
it.
Okay.
I was already busted when they actually added them charges.
All
So
right.
I'll tell you. So, anyways, she said she didn't say nothing. You know, she just said that her boyfriend was dropping her off. I guess they had dropped her off, and the cops pulled up right behind them when she was already outside of the car. And then when he got busted, he was saying like, "How do you know her?" That's my boyfriend or whatever. But she didn't know anybody else. She said. So I'm like, okay. So I kind of just shined it on, Hector. I was still in the neighborhood for the next couple of weeks. And then I remember I was sick in bed one morning. I didn't go to school. I was going to continuation school at that time. And I heard all the dogs bark. You know, all my neighbors have dogs and they're all barking. So I peek out the blind and I see nothing but sheriffs right there. So I go to the back door and I see them lined up on my wall with guns and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I just went back to my bed, jumped in bed. I was like, I'm done, you know, whatever. So they end up banging on the door. My sister opens the door for them. They come in and they start telling me that that I was being arrested for 187. I was like, what? I was like, man, you tripping. And the whole time I'm just like, my mouth, I don't know what they're talking about. You know, I'm just holding my mug. And then when I get to the sheriff's station, I see my homeboy. My homeboy was there, not the one that was in the back, the homie that was driving. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, what's up? And so I'm looking for the other homie. He's not there. And they tell us, yeah, is there anything you want to tell us about, you know, that incident, 3 weeks ago? And I said, what incident? I don't know what you're talking. I'm playing stupid. I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. You know. So I end up going to juvenile hall. They eventually tried me as an adult. And then right before we were going to our pre-trial, because before you could start trial, when you're being tried as an adult, you got to go through all these fitness hearings and everything. And you have to, it's just a long process. So finally, they're saying, okay, we're going to start pre-trial. But the thing is, they can't bond you over to superior courts on hearsay. And what I mean by hearsay, up until this time, all the witnesses had said it wasn't me. All them guys, when it came time to testify, all of them said it wasn't me.
Did they interrogate you in an interrogation room?
Yeah.
How was that? Was it a long process? Because I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately where they interrogate the shit out of people. Did you ever think about getting lawyering up?
I did, but not at that point. But I already knew. I had already been busted. They had already picked us up many a time. I already knew. Just shut up. I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. Whatever. Say what you want. You know what I mean? I don't know
I get
anything.
it, bro.
And they even try to tell you too, like, yeah, he's telling on you already.
I get it. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
this is your chance. You know, do you want to tell on him first before?
Right.
I'm like, man, I don't know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like many of times they had picked us up, just raid the whole neighborhood, take us all in and try to fish for information.
Right.
And, most of us were smart enough to just go with the plan. Like, we don't know nothing.
Right.
And so, yeah, I went through that interrogation. I wasn't scared or nothing. I really wasn't, you know what I mean? And next thing I know, that's when I go to juvenile hall. And when I went to juvenile hall for the first time, I already had an indication of what it would be like. And it was crazy because as soon as I walk in, everybody's throwing in their neighborhoods and stuff. And Los Padrinos is the juvenile hall I went to. So LA County has 3 different juvenile halls. We have Los Padrinos, we have Central, which is Eastlake, and then we have Silmar for like San Fernando Valley. But all the SGV, Harbor area, South Central, Compton, all of them areas go to Los Padrinos. So
Damn.
almost all them gangs are right there.
Probably the worst one then. I mean,
I would say it's the most mixed race one. Because, like, when you go to the Central, you got nothing but Boyle Heights, East LA. It's mainly all raza, you know? I mean, there's blacks and a couple of whites, but majority, that's what it is, you know? But in LP, we got a lot of blacks, a lot of Mexicans, a little bit of whites. But as soon as I got there, I got jumped by 2 of my enemies. I didn't even have a chance. I went into they gave me my blanket and my pillow and whatnot, and they said, yeah, go make up your bed. As soon as I went in there, they had already rushed me.
what was it, a dorm setting?
No, it was rooms.
Rooms?
Yeah, it was I think I was in a single. Yeah, at that time it was single man cells. Yeah, it was just a single man bunk.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had my back, the wall. There's a window. There's a bunk, And then there's the door, and I heard the door open. When I turned back, they just came in rushing me. Because as soon as I was walking in and everybody's jamming you in, like from the door, there's one door when you first come in, and then everybody's right there in a day room, and then the rooms are off to the side, right? So as soon as you're walking down that day room, they're like, "Where you from, man?" You know, like, boom, boom. They're like, "All right, boom, 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 boom." Next thing I know, them two, I didn't know who was there. You know what I'm saying? Next thing I know, I'm getting lumped up a little bit.
And how long were you in juvenile hall for?
I ended up staying in juvenile hall for a year fighting my case.
And what point did you realize the severity of the matter?
I think when my attorney started telling me, like, they're like, you know what? If we could keep you in juvenile, then you'll probably end up with like a juvenile life where you get out at 25.
Yeah.
But there's always a possibility, though they may, you know, if you get tried as an adult, then that might be out the window. And I said, so what am I looking at as an adult? And he was like, you're looking at life for the conspiracy. That's life by itself. And the attempted murders is also life. And the reason why they got the conspiracy, remember though, Hector, I told you, I was just kicking it and they came and picked me up.
Right.
In order to prove a conspiracy, you had to have like map, timed accounts. Like you had to have certain things planning it.
What's the difference between conspiracy and first degree? Isn't first degree premeditated? What's the difference between premeditated and
it all depends on the
conspiracy?
circumstances of your crime.
Yeah.
But because my crime partner opened his mouth and said that we had planned to go look for
conspired,
somebody,
yeah.
then that's how they attached it to me. But there was never no proof other than his word. And I ended up getting that overturned in the appellate courts because they have what's called overacts. They have to have these overacts to prove the conspiracy. Like I said, they had to have like, nowadays it would be a text message. It would be pictures, you know, monitoring a house or something, you know, but they didn't have nothing besides his word.
Damn.
Yeah. So, and the intimidation came in right after I got busted. My homeboys went and shot up the other homie's house. So that came back on me.
How did that come back on you?
They said that I'm the one that ordered it. I'm like, yeah, it was crazy. And the
Holy
intimidating
shit.
witnesses came in through homeboys that were in the courtroom that were talking crazy to the witnesses. And I'm like, I'm up here with the DA, the attorneys, and everyone else. How am I intimidating them?
Right.
Yeah, so
Dude.
yeah, they were rare. Back then though, in '89, man, they were trying to railroad all us gang members. They
flip
were
a
making
fucking coin,
examples.
huh,
They were
whatever.
making examples out of all of us.
Well, you said they 89, 90, there was that big boom of prisons being built in the early 90s. I'm starting to freaking observe how the government operates, man.
Yeah.
It's like they'll give up the house and let everything go wild, and then they'll just crack down and just, it's weird what they do.
I shared this on another podcast, and man, people twisted, especially the host. I'm not going to say which one, but I had said that during that time, like drive-bys were the given. There was no rules. There was no rules to gangbanging for the most part. I mean, there's like common sense, and then there was like gangbang is gangbanging. You know what I mean? It's just barbaric. You know the tactics, and I had said that at that time in my life, my house was always being shot up. I had little nieces, little nephews in there. And I had shared how, like, yeah, I didn't care who was, you know, if you were my enemy and I knew where you were and I wanted you, like you did something to us, I was going to come and I didn't care who was in your house. You know what I mean? I was going to try to, you know, make my, and I was like 14 at the time, by the way, very stupid, very just running amok, you know? But yes, this was during the 80s when all this happened. It wasn't later on is when rules started being implemented in neighborhoods on right and wrongs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. So there was a lot of homies being picked up for murders, attempted murders, home invasions. And yeah, it was crazy. And when I got to juvenile hall, Los Padrinos, I probably had like 20, 25 homies there with me from the streets that I knew, you know, for like violent crimes.
How was your adjustment to being in confinement? How did you like being in a cell? Did you get claustrophobia? Did you miss the luxuries of being able to go to the store and buy some chips or soda?
I didn't. To
You
tell
didn't-
you
you
the
weren't
truth,
tripping?
I didn't. I was okay. You know,
You were good?
I was good. I mean, I prefer to like be in my cell. I mean, I used to like to go out and play ball.
Right.
I didn't mention that, but throughout all my childhood, I played ball. I played baseball. You know, I played football, Pop Warner, Little League. I did some kickboxing. I played basketball. That was my thing. I was very athletic. You know,
Yeah.
that's one thing about my dad. My dad always had me in sports, you know, and a lot of my friends would play sports, you know. So when I got to juvenile hall, that was my go-to. Even in prison, that was my, anybody that knows me throughout prison, oh yeah, that was always on the handball court. That
Yeah.
was always playing basketball, playing softball. That's the way I did time. And in juvenile hall, that's what I was doing too, you know, besides fighting all the time.
Were there a lot of fights going on?
There was a lot of fights all the time, you know. That's what's crazy is juvenile hall, you're in there gang banging to the fullest, and then you go to county jail, and now there's no more gang banging.
Right.
And then for me, I end up in YA where it's even more extreme gang
So
banging.
you went from juvenile hall to county jail to YA
yeah,
to
to
CDC.
prison. Yeah.
That was your path. That was
my path. Yeah.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
So as you're going up that trajectory, are you starting to notice rules? Are you starting to know the reglas? And are you
Yeah,
starting to,
when I first got to juvenile hall, you know, it was just all about my neighborhood, all about Puente. Then when I got there, it was still all about Puente, but now there was like the SGV car.
Right.
You know, because out on the streets, we got along with certain neighborhoods like Azusa and Flores. They were like other big neighborhoods, but we were cool with them, and we
Allies.
kind of had the mutual enemies too, you know.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like we had each other's backs in there, you know what I'm saying? If we had an enemy and we really want, I mean, of course, we're going to get on him one-on-one, but then eventually, if he's still running his mouth, we'll probably just jump him and, you know, try to get him to roll it up or something. But, yeah, it was juvenile hall, but I never felt fearful of my life in juvenile hall, like I was going to get killed, like on the streets, you know, because there was no guns. And I got stabbed a couple times with pencils, but it was
Right.
kind of like, you know, just gave me a shot for an infection. I think they gave me a tetanus shot,
Yeah.
but that was it. You know what I mean? They used some tweezer one time to pull it out,
Yeah.
pull out the lead, but I never felt like I was going to die or nothing like that. You know what I mean? But I always like when I would fight in there, I would like protect my face because I used to think they were going to try to stab me in the eye or something.
Yeah.
So I would, you know, I would be, and I had a lot of experience. I mean, my nickname was Boxer, so I was always fighting in the streets prior to juvenile hall. So going in there and fighting, it wasn't really a big deal to me.
So during this process, at what point did you stop fighting the case, or was the case over with?
Oh, so let me tell you this. So juvenile hall, I said I was in there for a year. I went through my fitness hearing as a juvenile, and they ended up trying me as an adult. So when we went to adult court, this is where the preliminaries and everything that was going on, where they couldn't present a physical witness to testify against me. All them guys, I already had the paperwork on them. They all said it was me on paperwork.
They did?
I have that. Yeah, I still have that.
Yeah.
But in court, though, they all changed their statements. No, that wasn't him. I don't remember him looking like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm not knowing that, even though I already seen the paperwork and they
Right.
already said what they said. I said, is it still going to affect? I didn't know. This was my first time going
Right.
through this process of a trial like this, you know? And then so after all of them testified, they called my crime partner, but he never showed up. What I ended up finding out, though, by the way, though, me and the driver were facing the life sentences, right?
Okay.
The guy in the back seat that got the girls, the one that
That
told me
you to
about
look
the
in
gun,
Yeah.
he took a year of probation for gang terrorism. They offered him a deal, a year of gang terrorism in order to testify against me and my
Now, was
crime.
that your homie, or is this a random dude?
He was from my homie. He's originally from LA, from Huntington Park.
Oh, you said he was new to the area.
He was new to that neighborhood, but he was already gang related though. He came from LA, gang related, and it's kind of weird. I could honestly say he's probably like the only homeboy, but he was down though, and he was fighting with our enemies. He would be right there with us, and enemies started shooting at him too. So we were like, man, you might as well be from the neighborhood. They're shooting at you. You're fighting.
Yeah.
You're right with us. And he was like, all right, boom. So he got jumped in the neighborhood. Not long after that, we get busted.
Yeah.
So anyways, he doesn't come to court, Hector. They had to release us. We got released.
No way.
We got released
No
from
way.
juvenile hall. we're going to adult court from juvenile hall. At this time, we're in central juvenile hall now. When they tried us as adult, they took us out of Los Padrinos and took us to Central Eastlake Juvenile Hall. That's where they took us when we were going to adult court, right? So we went back and they released us. And what happened is we had what's called a DA reject. It's not like we were acquitted. It's not like they just kicked it out. It was a DA reject because of lack of evidence. So me and my home, we get out and we go right back to the streets. We go right back to the neighborhood, you know, and everybody's happy. They throw us a big old party, just like the movies. We're home.
Yeah.
We're veteranos now. I think my homeboy had turned 17 in there. I'm still 16. And we think we're all this stuff. You know, there's all kinds of new homies in the neighborhood, new homegirls in the neighborhood from that year. A lot of things happened. So when we got out, we found ourselves right back in the mix. Homies were telling us what's been going on. Homie gives me a brand new 9mm and tells me, yeah, you know, this for you, you know. And I get the whole wardrobe back over again, the khakis and the Ben Davises and just the whole gang attire, right? And during this time, though, I'm talking to my mom and my dad. I come from a good home, by the way, Hector. I do. I come from a really good home. My mom and dad, my dad was a Marine, a Vietnam veteran. He grew up in the Liesel Village in the projects of East LA, a gang member, but the Marine saved his life. That's what he would always tell me. The Marines saved my life and gave me a whole different vision of life.
Would he ever try to encourage you to join the military?
Oh, yeah.
He would?
Since I was a kid, I played soldier or whatnot, you know, pretending like I was in Vietnam because my dad had all these photo albums and some crazy stuff. I'm talking about my dad had pictures of him wearing necklaces with ears on them and stuff. And my dad suffered PTSD so bad, Hector, but I love my dad. He was an alcoholic. He's a hard worker, though. He was a functioning alcoholic because he was a steel worker. And he went to work every morning, like, I want to say like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And he would go to work and he would come home with a 12-pack, 6-pack, whatever, a box of beer. And he would pound. And my mom would feed him in the room, the old-fashioned TV trays. Sometimes the little TV dinners, the aluminum, you know what I mean? He would eat, drink, pass out, and do it all again the next day, you know? But my dad was very disciplined. My room had to be immaculate at all times. It was like, he was a sergeant, and
was he?
He would come in with his, literally, it seemed like white gloves, checking for dust.
Yeah.
Didn't allow me to have trash in my trash can. I'm like, why do I have a trash can if I can't have trash in there, you know? Like, dump it out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And my bed had to be made perfect. Every day, he would do like an inspection of my room, you know what I mean? And it gave me a lot of pride because I grew up like that. So it wasn't like a big thing by the time I was, 5, 6 years old, you know? I had house chores that I had to do. I had to rake my front yard. Before we had all these gardeners, these landscapers, I had to do all the landscaping.
When he would drink, would he ever tell stories, or would he
he'd tell stories.
Slip?
My dad was a Marine my whole life. Whenever he had the chance to share stories with somebody, because a Marine, they say once a Marine, always a Marine.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's that brotherhood where they don't let go of it. And my dad, and I know some veterans that don't like to see any of these war movies. My dad stood with the military channel on. My dad, and he had like hearing problems, so his TV was always loud. So you just hear la 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 la, boom, boom, you know?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that was my dad, though, man. And I remember being so young. I think it was a movie in the 70s, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Seen Apocalypse Now, like, over and over again. And my dad would he would be narrating the story, telling me about the Canuck helicopters and the Hueys, and telling me about, the foxholes, and telling me, and you could see the passion when he shares, you know what I mean? And I grew up looking at these photo albums. And all my uncles were in Vietnam, too, in different branches. I had two uncles in the Army and one in the Navy, and then my dad was a Marine, all brothers. And I have other cousins and all my family. So, yeah, I always wanted to be a Marine. I couldn't wait to get out of school to be a Marine.
So did he ever get to the point where he, just gave up trying to keep you in line?
Yeah, later on. Later on he did. My dad was very disciplinary, by the way, too. I never felt I was abused by my dad,
Yeah.
but I know, I mean, today many would consider it abuse.
Correct.
I mean, my dad threw me through drywall. I
God
mean,
damn.
my dad done, smack me quite often. You know what I mean? In my house, there was no mistakes. If I did something wrong, it was on purpose in my dad's eyes. There was no mistakes. If I dropped a glass of milk, broke the glass, I did that on purpose. If I broke the window outside playing baseball,
Yeah.
I did that on purpose, and I was going to be hit for it. You know what I mean? But my dad would hit me, but then he would talk to me like, don't break the window no more. Don't be more careful with the
Yeah.
milk. Different things like that. And I, over the years, I have given a lot of credit to my dad for a lot of my anger, my animosity, and everything towards him, because my dad didn't allow me to express my feelings as far as it was like a weakness. It was like if I came home bleeding when I fell off my bike, I'm
Yeah.
bleeding from my arm, just dripping, Hector, dripping, and I'm crying. I'm probably about 6 years old. I'm crying,
Yeah.
And he grabbed me, shoved a rag in my mouth, told me like take the pain, like you're all right, you're not going to die. Bring it over here.
Yeah.
Put me over a sink, cleaned it up, threw some peroxide or alcohol on it, put a gauze on me, and
Yeah.
said, "You're fine. Go play." You know what I mean? And it never failed. It never failed. Every time I hurt myself and I would cry, stop being a little girl, man up. You're not dying. And I learned to suppress them feelings later on. And when I would gangbang, I carried that suppression. You know what I mean? And it was kind of like, I don't want to over exaggerate and feel like I wasn't human, but I didn't care for my victims.
No, I get it. Did you ever become enraged? Or
Oh, yeah, blackout.
or utilize rage to fuel that fire?
I did. There was many a times, like I said, I was fighting in the streets a lot. And there was times when I would catch myself blacking out, depending on the situation. Like sometimes if I had just got into an argument with my dad and I was like, man, I can't wait to get older and stronger, because
Yeah.
my dad was always like that man's man, you know what I'm saying? Where, I mean, he was tough, And I knew I couldn't stand up to my dad. And I reverenced my dad. I never cussed at my dad. I never raised a hand at my dad. But when I was out on the street, so I pretend some of my victims were my dad, I'd be like, yeah.
So you were let go of juvenile hall, but you eventually went back into the system?
Yeah, so let me tell you, when they let me out, I told you I went back to the streets, and I started that whole thing about my dad and my mom being good people. And I had told my mom, I'm going to do good for you this time, like I'm going to do good. I promise you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get my GED, because she knew I wanted to be a Marine. I had already started working out with one of my recruiters that was right there in my neighborhood. He was an Asian dude, the Chinese. His name was Sergeant Lee. And I would come to Camp Pendleton with him.
Yeah.
I'd come to MCRD with him. The parade field over there, I started seeing that when I was young, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, the values and everything of a Marine, it was like my dad was instilling all of that in me young, about honor, respect, and all of this stuff, man. Like, I lived up to it, but I put it into my gang culture.
Right.
And so I telling my mom all that stuff, but it seemed like the neighborhood just kept getting a grip on me. But during that time, I got with one of my homegirls, right? And she was just like me. She was a gangbanger. She was, there wasn't really, like, I wouldn't say no shock, but she had a lot of influence among the homegirls, you know what I'm saying? And she was down for hers. And I kind of like took a liking to her, and I was like kind of just messing with her for a little bit, and we started getting serious, and we started talking about starting a family and everything. And I'm 17 at this time. Now I'm 17. And right after I got out, I think it was a month later, November, December, January, like 2 months. I got out in November. But in January, then November I got out, so almost a year. And then in January, I turned 17, and we started talking like grown-up talk, man. Like, I told her, man, like, we need to get out of here. A lot of my homies my age were starting to die, getting washed up. And I told my wife, she's my wife now, but at the time she was my girlfriend. And I told her, man, something needs to change. You know what I mean? And it wasn't long. I got her pregnant, Hector. And I told my mom and dad were excited. They were like, well, that's cool, like. And my dad had that father talk with me, like, so you going to keep playing these games? You going to man up? You going to be a father to your son? Or are we going to have to raise him? You know, you going to die in these streets? And I was like, nah, Dad, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to do good, man. We're already talking about getting an apartment and stuff. And he said, yeah, all that drug money you got, you should put it away and, you know, do something with it and stuff. And I told him, I am, Dad, for real. It's like, I'm going to do good. And that was my real righteous intention, to do good.
Yeah.
I did get a job. Well, the first job I got, it was kind of like a fluke because it was right in my neighborhood. It was a brand new pizza place. And I know when my homeboys see this, they're going to start laughing because it was called Double Deal Pizza. It was right in my neighborhood. And there was grand opening balloons and everything. I said, I'm going to go in there and ask them, you know, if they're, you know, I want to get hired and stuff. So I go in there and I'm talking to, they're Indian. They're from India, right? The Indian owners. And I was like, hey, man, you guys hiring? And he's looking at me. And I was like, yeah, I need a job, man. I really need a job. And he said, are them your friends? All my homeboys were right there in the front. Probably maybe like a good 15, 20 homies out there, right? Slap fighting, messing around and stuff. I said, yeah, them all my homies. He said, if we hire you, will my store be protected? Because the other day we got robbed and we're not even open and we got robbed. And I said, yeah. I said, yeah, if I'm here, everything will be cool, man. This is my neighborhood right here. And he said, well, do you think you could get our money back? It was like probably like $300. I said, nah, I don't know about that. I don't know who robbed you. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up getting that job, man. And they let me do deliveries, right? I was doing deliveries in my mom's car, which was marked. It was hot. It was a 79 orange Pinto. It was hotter than a firecracker in my neighborhood at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing had bullet holes in it and everything.
Really?
And I was driving it, delivering pizzas. But I told the owner, we had a map right there in the store. I told him, this is the only area I could deliver. Anything else, you need to send someone out. He said, all right, let's do it. So I started working there, legit. Minimum wage, I think it was $4.25, what they're starting me at, $4.25. And I started working, started saving my money. We're going to be having a baby, right? I want to say she got like January, February, March, August, September. Yeah, I think it was January she got pregnant. We got married in April. We had a shotgun marriage. Our parents had a sign for us. We were underage. We were both 17. And all my homies, a lot of my homies, we all went to Las Vegas and had one of them quick little Las Vegas weddings. And came back. And my homeboys are happy for me. They're like, that's cool, fool. You know what I'm saying? And I was working, doing good. I had moved out of my neighborhood. I went to my sister's house, which was just a few cities over in El Monte. And I ended up going home in July. Remember, we got married in April. In July, I went back to the neighborhood to my mom's house. And me and my brother, one of my homies, I call him my brother though, my homie Flaco, we walked to the 7-Eleven right there in the neighborhood. And when we came out, there was a sheriff that was pulling in and put the light on us, told us to put our hands on the car and stuff. And I didn't have no reason to run or nothing. I'm working. I'm legit. I had I had a driver's license. I just got my driver's license. I was like, here, you know, like, what's up? They're like, where you guys, you know, coming from? We're like, you seen us walking out 7-Eleven. What do you mean where we come from? What are you guys up to? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, nothing, man. You know, let me see your ID cards. Give them our ID cards. They sat us on the curb right there, had all our stuff on the cop car. And there was two of them. So the guy's talking to us. The other guy took our IDs, running our names. The guy comes back and he draws down on me. Don't move. And I'm like, man, what you tripping on, fool? And they're like, yeah, you got a warrant for your arrest. And I was like, man. So come to find out, I'm in the substation. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. They wake me up and they said, yeah, come out here. And I go out and it's a gang unit. Gang unit's right there. And they're like, what's up, Jojo? How you doing, man? I heard you having a baby. I heard you got married. I heard you doing good. I said, man, if you heard all that, why you messing with me for, you know?
Yeah.
Remember I told you earlier, they had a habit of picking us up and just trying to fish information.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why you messing with me for, man? Come on. If you know I'm doing good, why mess with me? They were like, this ain't even on us. I was like, what do you mean it's not on you? Who's it on then? They were like, the district attorney from Pomona Court refiled on you. Refiled on me? I said, what do you mean refiled on me? They're like, yeah, that case from 2 years ago. By now, that was 89. All the 90 I was out, it was already almost 91. And they refiled on me. They reopened that same case on me.
Damn.
So here I am repeating the process. My wife's pregnant, married her, doing good. And now, even though I was 17 at that time, I didn't know this, but once you're tried as an adult, every time you're arrested after that, it's automatic. You're an adult. So at 17 years old, they're taking me to LA County Jail. And once I found out what it was for, though, I was like, man, they're just messing with me, man. I already beat that case.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I beat that case. So I end up getting an attorney. I tell him it's actually in the juvenile case in the 2 years ago. I had got this attorney, a paid attorney. My family got me an attorney. So we called him. He said, yeah, they're filing the same charges. Everything's exactly the same. And I was like, what? So he said, yeah, we're going to put in a motion for discovery. We want to find out what's going on here, blah, blah, blah. And he said, everything looks the same. He said, I would suggest us having a speeding trial. Speeding trial means you have to start picking jury within 90 days. You have to. That's your civil right to have a speeding trial. So that's what I said. Let's have it. So I'm calculating, man, I still might be able to make this delivery of my baby.
Yeah.
And so when I got to county jail, I was trying to like lay low profile at this time because I'm thinking I'm going home.
Right.
And even my homeboys, my older homies that were there, they were telling me, yeah, just, it's a lot different here. You don't got to gangbang. You don't got to do none of this stupid stuff. You don't got to raise your hand. Just be cool. If something happens, a race, right, do what you got to do, but just be cool. Don't be stupid. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, all right. So that's the way I was trying to do my time, trying to, within them 90 days, to try to like just keep my nose clean, not to pick up nothing new and hopefully get out on this case again. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of laying low, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of just going through the motions of things. What happens, Hector, is we start trial, right? Start trial. We pick the jury, everything. Them same witnesses I told you from before, they got on the stand, said it wasn't me. That girl that I told you that was in the car, she pled the fifth. Remember I told you we picked up two girls. One of the girls had got dropped off, so she never got caught up in none of this. No, the cops didn't know about her. Nobody knew about her. It was just the one girl. So she ends up pleading the fifth in court because she was in there. She had that right to plead the fifth, not to say anything. So she pled the fifth, but on paperwork, I still had her testimony as well. So everything's looking just like it did the last time. So I'm like, all right, I'm cool. Every day I'm going back telling the homies, yeah, everything's looking good. They're like, you're going home, fool. You're going home. You're going home. And I'm like, shoot, I sure hope so. And all along, my wife's getting bigger and bigger, getting ready to deliver this baby. And the last witness is my actual crime partner. He shows up this time. Last time, I didn't know this, but he ended up fleeing to Mexico for a while. And then when he came back, he got busted. And when they ran his name, he had a warrant for not showing up on that gang terrorism probation violation for not testifying.
Yeah.
He left on that.
That's weird.
Yeah, he left on it. And when they arrested him, his name came back as, hey, this dude had probation. He was supposed to testify.
Right.
He never did anything. He left. But this time he comes in. And when he comes in, he just spills his guts. And some, I would say. He started talking about other stuff that I wasn't even arrested for, where they end up booking me again.
No.
When I got back to the county jail, they were booking me on other charges that he brought up during the trial.
Were you were in the courtroom when this dude's singing like a canary? What was going through your head, man?
The green jacket. So at first, I didn't think he was coming, though. And then I saw the sheriff jackets. They were green with yellow right now. And I see two of them come in. And then I look, and he's behind them.
So he was incarcerated as well? He was coming from the outside. Okay, cool.
So he comes in with like 5 sheriffs.
Yeah.
And when he's walking in, Hector, he's mad dogging me like I'm snitching on. He's mad dogging me. And he gets up on that stand and he starts saying everything and some.
And what were you thinking? Oh, man, you didn't have to say all that.
I'm like, I'm washed up. As soon as I heard him say the first thing, then when I started hearing him say other things, I'm looking and I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, and this time, Hector, though, through the whole juvenile time, remember the driver, he was with me. We would go handcuffed together. This time around, when they rearrested me at that 7-Eleven, instead of calling home, I called his mom. And tell her, hey, they're looking for us.
Oh, you gave him the heads up.
He jammed.
Okay.
I'm now facing trial by myself. By myself. I'm in there by myself. And when he comes in, the witness, I'm looking at him like, I don't believe this. And I'm thinking he's going up there, and I'm like, he ain't going to say nothing. And then he literally started crying, talking about why he's testifying against me. And the whole reason why they're saying that he's testifying against me is because I put a hit on his family. Remember I told you they did the drive-by afterwards on his house? But by that time, the whole neighborhood knew
Told.
that he already had. We had paperwork on him,
Right.
so the whole
could've
neighborhood
been
was already
anybody.
aware. You know, it didn't take me to tell them
Right.
to go do something. He did a no.
Yeah.
So here he is. He's crying on the stage, on the stand, and I'm like, I'm done. And that day, when I go back into the holding tank, I'm finding out my son's being born.
Oh shit, dude.
Yeah, my son's being born on that day.
Damn.
And I told my wife, like, I told my family, I'm like, "Shh, I'm about. I knew at that point I was done. So I ended up coming back for sentencing, and yeah, they give me the max. I ended up getting 30 to life for the
30 to life?
30 to life for the conspiracy and the attempted murders and the intimidating witnesses. I got like a bow-legged 13 years. I got the gang enhancement, which was 15 years. Then they gave me a 5-year enhancement for the gun. I was like,
And what year was this?
I was
91,
done.
92 already?
Huh?
What
This
year
was
was
91.
91?
This was 91.
Dude. So
Yeah.
when
from
you
89,
touched down,
90, this was 91.
where'd you go to reception for state prison?
State prison. So I ended up going through YA first. When I went to prison, I ended up, because I left YTS.
Yeah.
All right. I left YTS under investigation. And it's crazy. It's crazy, Hector, because we were already on lockdown when this counselor got killed. The whole institution was on lockdown for something else, right? I was what was called a critical worker. I was
Yeah.
working what in the joint is called inmate day labor, IDL, inmate day labor. They're the ones that get paid minimum wage. They get paid good money, right? So in YA, I had a job that was similar to that. I was working for a company outside, which is contracted with the youth authority. So even though we were locked down, they still had a contract to produce.
Okay.
So me and like 5 other dudes were out there working during this lockdown. Of course, we had escort, everything like
Yeah,
that, but we're working. But because this cop got killed in an unknown way, they didn't know how she got killed. They found her body in a dumpster outside of the jail. So when she goes in, when you go into the institution, when you're coming to work that day, when she came to work, she grabs these ring keys called chips or whatever
Yeah.
that identify these are what she's checked out, her
Right.
alarm, whatever she gets to work that day. Well, she never turned them back in. She never, at the end of her shift, she never checked out. So they're looking for her. Where is she at? They couldn't find her in the
Right.
institution. And what was crazy about it, Hector, we were on lockdown. We were on lockdown already, which I said, right? But now they're coming to the buildings with dogs.
Who killed her? A ward?
It was a ward.
So I'm familiar with this story. Not the details, but I remember kind of, yeah, dude.
So what ended up happening is that, so let me just tell you this. So when we were on lockdown and they started coming to our rooms, and normally, they would come in, and depending on what they're looking for, if somebody was fighting and they got away, they would look at our knuckles, they would
Right.
take off our shirts and stuff, look at our body. But they didn't do none of that. They told us step out of the room. They came in with some rooms they had dogs, some rooms they didn't, and they just looked under our beds and they looked in our lockers,
So
and
they're
that
looking-
was it.
They're looking for a person.
And I said that. I said, hey, they're looking for somebody.
Yeah.
And we saw the cops on the roofs from the building across from us. We could see out our cell, and we could see them on the roofs. I said, somebody escaped. That's why they're looking. That's why they have the dogs. And then all of a sudden, somebody started banging on the door. They're like, hey, put it on Channel 7 News. Put it on Channel 7 News. We're like, what's going on? They were like, look, we're on TV. We're on the institution on TV. News helicopters flying, and they're sharing the story that youth counselor such and such is missing.
That's so weird, dude, that they would fly it to the news so fast.
Yeah.
You know what I
mean? This was like the second day.
Oh, the second day. Holy
second
shit.
day, yeah. So I guess after that shift and she didn't come out, they're like, well, did she leave without doing the chip? So they
Right,
were trying
right.
to contact her. But it was the next day when they started searching.
Well, it's because there's a whole process of staff accountability.
Yeah.
And for that reason,
Yeah.
in case somebody's fucking dead in a dumpster. So what
And
ended up happening?
That's what it was, though. That's what they believe, because they found her in Pomona at the waste, at the sanitation waste.
Oh, they didn't
meaning
find her within the
They
thing?
didn't find her within the institution. They found her outside.
Then how was it that a ward was able to kill her? He paroled or he escaped?
No. This is what this is the rumors of it, and
Yeah,
during
yeah.
us being investigated, this is kind of the pieces we put together. Is that the ward that they were saying was a part of it, right? He had scratches on him. They found DNA on her. They said that he had sexually assaulted her first, and then got her keys because the trash cans have locks.
Right.
And in YA, it's like there's a ramp, and then there's there's the kitchen right there, and you go out that ramp and you throw away the trash.
Yeah.
They believe that he shoved her in the trash bag and carried her out to the dumpster, locked it, and went back
And then the trash truck came
and took her
and
out.
took her out. No way,
Yeah.
dude. Wow, man. That is wild, dude.
Yeah.
So then they
So-
went back and they gaffled him up wherever he was at in there.
Well, yeah. So all of us were on lockdown already. They didn't gaffle him down right away.
Yeah.
Right away. They didn't. So they had us all on lockdown. Next thing I know, we're being investigated. And at that same time, that's why we were on lockdown, because they were already getting rid of the M numbers. And the story is, and I don't know how true any of this is.
Yeah.
It's all hearsay as far as I know. But they were saying that the ward was having an intimate relationship with that counselor. And now that he was getting ready to leave, she had told him that I'm not going to follow you. Like this is done. Like our little time of playing is done. I'm married. I'm not going to follow you to the next institution. It's done.
Oh, that's-
And that like flipped them out or something. Like that's what caused him to wig out and end up taking her out,
damn, dude.
And yeah, so anyways, they come and they start taking all the lifers first. Then they start taking all the M numbers, which were adult commitments. Anybody that could go to CDC, they took them, right?
By bus?
By bus. They were bringing CDC buses right onto the YA institution, right down the unit. So there's like A and B, C and D, E and F, G and H. They were bringing the buses right to the unit and loading up these buses,
Yeah.
right? So I'm thinking everybody is still going. I know I'm a lifer. I'm already seeing other people go. And I'm thinking, they're like, okay, they were taking like maybe 10. And then a little bit later on in the evening, they'll take another 10. They were just taking them out, 10, whatever, right? And come to find out, they were taking them to Tehachapi, Wasco, Delano, Chino, all these different places. And I'm like yelling down the hallway, like, who's left? Like, who else is here besides me? Everybody was gone. And here I am like, what are they doing with me? Why are they holding me up? And at this point in time, I had no idea that I'm under investigation for that murder. Remember, I was out. Not only me, but the kitchen workers were also under investigation. Anybody that had access to them trash cans.
You were under investigation for that murder.
For that murder.
Holy shit, dude.
Not
That's
even
weird. That's so
knowing it.
fucking weird, bro.
I didn't even live on the unit with her.
That's so weird, dude.
I lived upstairs.
Yeah.
She was downstairs in C&D. I was up in G&H at the time. And then they moved me to the other side from G&H to E&F. And when I got there, that's where the other kitchen workers that I knew that were lifers, and they're like, what's up, fool? You're still here too? I was like, yeah, what's up? Why are we still here?
Yeah.
So the next day, they tell us, all right, you guys are leaving now. They stripped us down to our shower shoes and boxers, and they came and tied us up. They tied us up with the box around the waist, down to the ankles.
Yeah.
And they put us in a van. There was like 5 of us. And we're like, what the heck? Still don't even know we're under investigation. We thought we were just still going. We didn't
Right.
know if that's the way they were transporting everybody else.
Right.
I was like, dang, man, we can't even get a jumpsuit? Like, where we going? They're like, oh, yeah, you're only taking a 2-minute drive. Like, you don't need no jumpsuit. When you get there, you'll get a new jumpsuit. So they tell us we're going to Chino Prison. So we're going to Central Prison to Chino.
Yeah.
When we get to Chino, they're escorting us, and they start telling us that, yeah, you guys are going to Palm Hall until the investigation is resolved.
So weird, dude.
And I'm like, Palm Hall? Like, where's Palm Hall? Like, I don't know nothing. This is my first time in prison.
Yeah.
So when we get to Palm Hall, one of the guards comes and tells us, listen, I'm going to give you a word of advice. Don't talk to anybody. Don't look at nobody. They'll get at you. And we're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And they're telling us, yeah, just this is our first time in prison.
Right.
This is our first experience, right? We're still in our shower shoes. They didn't give us no jumpsuit. We're in our shower shoes and boxers. And they're walking us in, and there's 3 tiers. And the first 2 tiers look normal with bars and clothes hanging, and they're it wasn't what I was expecting. It was like the movies. They start whistling at us, catcalling, fish on the line. Man, that tall one looks sexy.
They did or they didn't?
They did.
Oh, they did.
They're clowning us.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, put him with me.
Yeah.
Hey, that second one right there, put him with me.
Yeah.
I want him. And we're tripping. We didn't know. Then they take us up to the 3rd tier, which looked a lot different. The bottom, remember, they're just regular bars. When we get to the top, they're bars, but they're cages. It's just all cages. The whole 3rd tier is all cages, and it's quiet. So I thought we were the only ones going up there. I didn't even know that there was anybody else in them.
Yeah.
They put us in the 4 back cells, like closest to the staircase. And right after that, the cop had, once they took our things off, they're like, yeah, somebody will get at you in a bit. And we're like, who's going to get us? The cops? Who? Whatever. And then next thing I know, one of the neighbors banging on the wall. He said, hey, homie, get this line. And so he sends over a fishing line and stuff, and it's a little kite. He's asking us, let us see your lockup orders.
Yeah.
Where you coming from? This and that. And I'm like, lockup orders? What they didn't even give us nothing. We don't even have nothing. We're just in our box. We don't got no property. We don't got no toothbrush. We don't have nothing. We're stripped. Literally, our boxers and shower shoes. That was it. And I'm telling them back, I'm like, I don't got nothing to write with or nothing. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
like, I don't have nothing to write with. I'm like talking loud. I don't got no paperwork. And all of a sudden, the guys from underneath are yelling up, don't give them your paperwork. They're going to kill you. Don't give them your... And I'm like, what the heck? So the homie's like kind of, he's like, hey, he said, all right, let me pull that line back or whatever. So he starts writing me little kites, telling me, hey, the 1st and 2nd tier, they're all PC. Don't listen to them. You know what I mean? I'm like, what the heck? Like that many why we're not used to seeing that many PCs. I mean, why we don't see no PCs? And even in the county jail, I don't remember seeing any PCs. And here there's 2 tiers. So he's giving us a rundown and stuff. And next thing I know is they're taking us downstairs in the morning. They put us in the little dog cages, and they're telling us, you guys need to go get an X-ray and this and that. And we're like, all right, whatever, And then when we're in the cages, at this time, Hector, too, let me bring this to light, that at this point in time, I had a spiritual awakening where I'm Christian. I'm a Christian homie. I had an encounter with God. I gave my life to the Lord.
At the time that you were in Palm Hall?
Palm Hall, I'm Christian. Throughout all my YTS time, I was Christian as well. I had found the Lord, believe it or not, after that county jail experience, after sentencing, all that stuff is when, like, I had a moment of clarity where God grabbed a hold of my life, and that's a whole nother story in itself, bro, because it was like, I didn't know what was going on. I had no previous encounters like what I did that time. I didn't know what I was facing to make a decision. Like, I didn't even know what kind of decision I was making when I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. I didn't know what the repercussions would be, because after that incident in court, I didn't tell you this, but after that homeboy got on stand, remember I told you, during them 90 days, I was trying to lay low profile. I was trying to be cool, let my hair grow out, everything. When I went back that evening, I shaved my head.
Right.
And I said, you know what? It's on. Like, I knew I was done. After that testimony right there, I was done.
Yeah.
Even the next day when I went, to, was it the next day? No. I didn't even go back the next day. I was waiting to catch the train for a documentation, 90-day observation in YA now.
Right.
And I had shaved my head, and I started raising my hand, everything that I was told not to do in the beginning.
Yeah.
And here I am now.
So what was the purpose of the X-ray in Chino?
In Chino? I don't know. We had to see the medical doctor. We hadn't been classified. Nothing. Remember, they just brought us straight from YA to over there.
So did they ever interview you?
Who?
The cops, ISU.
No, it had nothing to do with ISU. It had everything to do with Chino Police Department.
Chino Police Department.
Chino
Holy
Police
shit. Did the
Department.
homicide detective ever interview you?
They did come to talk to us.
Yeah.
And I told him I didn't even know who the lady was. I said, I don't even know. I didn't live on that unit, though.
Right.
So let me tell you how I thought originally that I was getting caught up in that mix because I was working
Right.
when all of that happened. Maybe they thought I had access to the trash can or whatever. So all along I thought that, right? But come to find out, they were thinking that I may have heard something because supposedly everything that happened, the battle between him and her, the sexual assault or any of that stuff that happened in the cell right below me. Because when they started asking me, yeah, did you hear anything in the vents or whatever like that? I was like, during lockdown, everything was loud. Everybody was clowning. It was like, I heard a lot of things throughout all the vents because them vents don't only go down. You hear your neighbors. Right. I said, I didn't hear any woman screaming, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
But yeah, though, when we were over there, Chino PD came and talked to us, but they just asked us like what I just said, you know what I mean? And that was it. But they kept us under investigation for quite a while, you know what I mean?
So after that, did you touch down at Corcoran?
Well, I ended up going to Donovan. I ended up going to a few other places before that time. But while I was in Palm Hall, though, it was an experience, though, because I was on management role, which I didn't know what management was at that time. That wasn't a part of our language in YA. I never heard of indeterminate shoe programs.
Right.
I didn't hear of people possibly having, 300 points. You know what I mean? Like, that's ridiculous points. You know what I mean? Like, that is crazy. I didn't know what it meant to be classified. We didn't know nothing about prison. We were just from that van to that cell. So they started taking us down. We had to do, I think we were doing x-rays for TB testing or something because I guess we needed that.
Yeah.
We ended up seeing a medical doctor. Then we went to classification, and then that's when they, I didn't even know what closed B was. They were like, yeah, you're going to be closed B. I didn't know what that meant. They were like, right now you're max A custody. Once we're going to release you from max A to closed B.
Yeah.
Not realizing closed B meant at 4 o'clock your program was over,
Right.
you know? But yeah, ended up being closed B. From there, staying in, and you know what? I'm grateful to this day that I did go there. When we first got there, when we were in the dog cages, there was a homie next to us, and he was on management with us, so he was talking to us. You know, he said, "Yeah, I'm cool. You could talk to me. I'm on management." You know what I mean? And he started telling us, "Yeah, I don't think the homies are going to want you on the yard with us because you guys are Christian. Nothing against you, just I don't think they're going to want you out there." So we're like, we don't know what to expect. I don't know. What do I say? Oh, shoot, I'm going to go to the yard anyway. You know, what am I supposed to say? We're like, all right, whatever. So I ended up getting in the car, and the homies were like, yeah, go to yard, at unlock tomorrow. When they come, go. So I went to yard, and they asked me and the other guys from YA if we would, they were like, it's good for you. Just work out. I had no idea what that workout was going to be like.
Right.
I didn't know that we were going to have to stand in cadence. I didn't know we were going to have to sound off the way we had to sound off on that yard. I didn't know we were going to work out for 2 hours straight.
Were you able to complete the workout?
At first I couldn't. Actually, I threw up. They told me, go over there to the side and throw up. I was like, because we were on lockdown all that time, just sitting around. We weren't working out in YA. That was unheard of, dude.
Yeah.
Up and downs, And when we got there, and it was August when we got transferred, by the way. And it's crazy because we were there when Tupac got killed. We were there in Palm Hall when he got killed because I forgot. I think they were passing out laundry or something in the morning, and we were asking, hey, what happened with the Tyson fight? We're like, oh, yeah, he won, but guess what? We're like, what? Tupac got killed. We're like, Tupac got killed? Like, what?
Yeah.
After he was there at the fight, after he got killed in Vegas, we're like, what? So, yeah, I was there when I was there in the hole. So whenever I think of Tupac getting killed, I remember I was back there in the hole. But I was grateful, though, because we went out there, started working out, met a lot of cool dudes. It was crazy, too. My first real, prison violence was right there. The guy that was running the whole thing right there, they stabbed him good, man.
And that was in an ad seg yard?
In the yard.
And was that a group yard?
Yeah, Well, it was everyone from the third tier. It was management. It was all.
But the group yard, because now what they have, I mean, yeah, that's what the group yard is. Now what they have is the individual dog cages.
Oh, no. We had a
kennels.
group yard. Well, no, we had a group
Yeah,
yard.
the group yard.
Yeah, that was a good.
And then you seen a dude get stabbed right there?
The main guy. Well, he didn't get stabbed. Actually, he got sliced up. They sliced him up pretty. But there was a lot of blood. I didn't know what happened when they did it. When the yard went down and everything, we were on the floor and they, they asked for victim. Can you stand up? And he stood up and he walked off. And
where was he
everybody's
hit?
down.
In the face?
On the face, the neck.
Fuck.
And then when we were going, the trippy part about it though is when we were going back, everybody was telling him like that's right, homie, like stay down, whatever. And I'm like, and then the next day in the yard, I had learned a long time ago not to ask questions.
Right.
If it doesn't apply to me, don't ask questions. I learned to turn my head the other way. I wasn't one of them ones like, somebody's going to get hit. Let me keep an eye out for it. No, you go the other way, because I already knew from previous experiences, if you're around the vicinity of something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now you've seen something. Now you're in that conversation. Who was there when it happened?
Yeah.
Who seen it? Who knew something? So I already knew not to say anything. So I wasn't really asking nothing about him, but it came up, and I said, why did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, and they're like, nah, he's still good. He was in CRC. He did something he wasn't supposed to.
They said he was still good?
Yeah, they were like, he's still good.
Even though they were hitting him in the face? What's up with that?
They were like, what they told me at that time, that was just a checking. That was a checking. And that was like reality to me hit. Like, dang, that was just a checking. And they were like, yeah, he's still all right. It's up to him which way he goes from here. Yeah. And I was like, dang, you know what I mean? And this was like the dude that was sounding off the whole rutina and everything. But
is there any other violent encounters that you can remember?
There in that time?
In general.
I saw a lot of dudes get blasted. I saw the gunner shoot probably like 3 different people during my time in prison. I seen a lot of different things, but I could tell you this much though: prison was not as violent as the youth authority.
It was
by a long shot, not even close. I mean, we had the helicopter air vacuuming wards almost every week from internal bleeding wounds because in YA we had trade shops. We had metal shop, welding shop. We had masonry, carpentry. We had, screwdrivers and man, I seen a guy when I first got there in YA. This was like in the beginning. I'm going to say maybe late 91, early 92. This guy stabbed this dude from the back with a piece of rebar from the back. It came out through the front of him like straight gladiator movie. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, dang, that was like my first incident. Then later on, I saw guys get like locked up with battery. We called it battery packing in YA. And yeah, dude's eye was like hanging out of his socket and stuff. And I seen dudes get stabbed with a saw, with an actual wood saw.
Yeah.
I saw him get like sliced with it. Damn. It was crazy. Like, why though? That helicopter was always landing, bro.
So when you landed in Corcoran, was it the shoe or was it a mainline?
No, it was mainline. Yeah. When I left Donovan, the new Corcoran, this was like 97. It was really barely opening. I think it was the substance abuse yards that opened up first, and that's when Iron Man was there, Robert Downey Jr.
Satif.
Yeah, that was like the big hype. Robert Downey Jr. was there, and Sharon Stone was in the visiting room with visitors, and then they started opening up like C yard, which was the 4 yard. Then A and B yard were level 2 yards that were barely opening. Then I think D yard was a level 3 that was opening. Because, SADF, that has...
Hey, guys, consider becoming a patron where you will get first exclusive dibs on the video before it airs to the public, and you'll get to ask the guests special questions that you have in mind. So that's also another way to support the channel. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. Keep pushing forward. Make sure you hit that link in the description below.
And then A and B yard was barely opening when I got there, which was level 2 yards. And my points had dropped. I was in Donovan on an override, level 3 override. And when I got over there, I was a level 2. So I went to B yard. And B yard, the paint, they hadn't even painted the buildings yet. It was that, I want to say I was probably like the 4th bus there. And when I got there, for it being a level 2, that yard was crazy. I mean, I've never opened up a prison, but to open up that yard in a sense where everything was brand new, all the sheets, all the pillowcases, all the blues.
So everybody was fighting for their territory, and
Yes, exactly. So we had the Southsiders, the Northerns. We had Bulldogs on that yard. We had the whites, the others, all of that, the blacks, of course. And everybody was trying to figure out who was going to dominate what. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They only had 2 different sets of bar work. So, of course, one was going to be Southsiders, one was going to be black. Southsiders and whites, the other ones blacks and Northerns. And then the Bulldogs kind of just fit in kind of with us. They were kind of like cool with us at the time. And when I say us, I mean the Southsiders. They were cool with the Southsiders. And, yeah, man, but right there was so much tension jumping off right there. And it was crazy. I think I mentioned to you, I had a homeboy named Buddha who was a semi-pro boxer. And he was all over the newspapers that he was like one of the contenders to box Tyson at that time. And Tyson was already up there, but this guy was a regular Mexican, but he looked like a big old Hawaiian Samoan type of dude. And this dude was a drunk, and man, this homeboy, it was one of my homeboys from Puente, and that fool was in there beating up the Northerns left and right, causing more and more problems. And then the homies wanted to get rid of him. They came and told me and a couple of my other homies from Puente, like, hey, man, your homie keeps on stirring up too much problem.
Yeah.
And remember, he was a boxer, so they ended up trying to regulate. And we're like, hey, that's on you guys. You know what I mean? You guys want him off the yard. You're going to have to deal with them. So they tried to send some homies over there, and Buddha was lighting them up left and right. I mean, groups of homies were going over there, and Buddha was just lighting them up. And in the process, Buddha's lighting up everybody, though.
yeah.
And finally, me and another homie from Puente just told Buddha, like, Buddha, just go, fool. Like, they're not asking you to lock it up. They're just saying, just go and tell them that you need to go somewhere else, man. They're trying to they just wanted him to leave. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, shoot, man, it kind of sounds like you're telling him to lock it up. You know what I mean? They were like, nah, he could just tell him to go to another yard.
So you had got hit with that 30 to life. At what point did you end up appealing it to be able to get?
I did. Actually, in 94, I was in YA, and I went back on my first appeal. I ended up going back and being resentenced to 25 to life. And it doesn't sound like much, but I ended up getting the conspiracy got dropped first.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like any better at all.
Yeah, it didn't sound better
Right.
at all. So I got the conspiracy case dropped first. Like I said earlier, they didn't have enough evidence on the overacts. They never presented no overacts which they needed.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, I got the gang enhancement drop because they messed up on that one.
Wow.
Because they used crimes after my crime
Right.
to prove. Because you remember, I had that 2-year gap. So what happened is they used crimes after the fact. If they would have just used crimes prior to my case,
Yeah.
the enhancement would have stuck. But because they used crimes after it, the appellate court said you can't use them, though.
Who was able to identify that? Your lawyer?
The appellate courts.
Oh,
Well, my
shit.
lawyer,
Right.
I think my lawyer appealed every decision, I think. And when the appellate courts went through it, it came back in my favor. Yeah. So when that happened, I ended up with life plus 5 years for the gang enhancement.
Okay.
For the gun use, the gun enhancement. Life plus 5.
What gave you the L? The conspiracy to commit murder?
The attempted murders,
The attempted murder. 6 counts.
6 counts. That's
Damn.
what was carrying the life term. Yeah, man. And at that time, I didn't think I was ever going home.
Right.
Because no life was going home.
So you went from 30 years to life, 25 years to life, then life with 5.
Yep.
And then what
in
ended up happening?
2003, during the recall of Gray Davis, which
Yeah.
was the governor at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger ended up becoming governor. When he was getting recalled, during that time, during like the early 2000s, it was all over the newspaper. They wanted to dismantle the board. They really wanted to dismantle the board. Greg Davis was being recalled, and here I am going in front of the Board of Prison Terms. And when I went in, the first time I went in for an actual suitability hearing, because every 3 years, lifers go to what's called, what are they called? Not suitability hearings. They're called, documentation hearings. They just want to document where you're at right now. That's it, though. But it's never no deliberation on whether or not you're suitable for parole. According to the matrix, None of that happens until years later,
Yeah.
right? So here I am though, because I got everything dropped and my matrix is coming up where they're like, yeah, you're now eligible for parole if found suitable. So my first year, they told me no, due to the seriousness of my case, blah, blah, blah. We're giving you a 3-year denial in 2000. When I go back in 2003, they find me suitable. They find me suitable.
What? But in 2003, man, the dudes were not getting action. Not like now. Not like now,
no.
or not like 10 years ago. So was that had to have been a rare case, right?
It was a rare case, very rare. So rare that they didn't even know how to parole me when that time came.
I can see that.
But what happened, though, is that when I got suitable by the commissioners, the governor's commissioners, right? They stamped it just like in the movies.
Yeah.
Granted parole. That's what it said on the
Why
paper.
were you the exception at that time? What did they were the board members like in favor of your story?
3 years later, I had by that time I ended up leaving B yard and I went to F yard, which was the substance abuse yard. They were paying for our colleges. They were paying minimum wage. They were paying us to be residential live-in drug and alcohol counselors.
Okay, cool.
So they were paying for our college and everything, and I got involved in that. I was one of the lifers because there was only a few lifers that were being chosen to do that. And that agency, well, what ends up happening, the governor ends up denying my parole. He snatched my date. He's like, nope, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
So I got what was called an embankment hearing, where it went before all the commissioners in Sacramento. All 7 commissioners had to do a vote in my favor if I was to be paroled. This happened August 13th of 2003. I wasn't allowed to go to that hearing, but I could have character witnesses go on my behalf.
Okay.
So what happened is the Walden House, which was overseeing that facility at that time,
Yeah.
based out of San Francisco, they got attorneys for me. They got psychologists for me. They got all kinds of people to fight with. They told me, we're going to fight the governor for you.
Dude, they did you a solid, man.
They did, very much so. I mean, I love them to this day. I mean, we're a family, put it like that. We are. And what happens is they were up there later into the evening. That night, about 9:30 at nighttime, we're already, yards closed, everything's happening. It's August, right? Hot as heck in Corcoran. They call me over the intercom. Godinez, report to the program office. I'm like, everybody's looking at me. What the heck? Nobody goes to the program office. You know what I mean? I'm like, what do they want me for? Why? I need to go. I'm like resisting. I'm telling them like, there's nothing for me at the program office.
Right.
And right away, somebody's like, man, Jojo, they were like, think somebody died. And I was like, man, because I remember before my mom died while I was in custody.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, so I'm like, dang, now that you bring it up, you know what I mean? I'm like, shoot. So I'm walking across the yard, everybody's just looking and stuff, and everybody's thinking like, dang, everybody knew me. I was cool with everybody. So when I go, and they knew, everybody was kind of already knowing that I was having that hearing take place that I wasn't able to go to earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So I was like, but I wasn't even thinking nothing about that. I was thinking, man, am I getting bad news right now? So when I get there, my counselor is there, my CC1 is there, and he's all sweaty. He's a white boy, and he's all red in the face, sweating. And I'm like, what the heck? What are you doing here right now? He said, you need to sign these papers. You need to sign these parole plans right now. You're going home in the morning.
What?
And I'm like, what the heck? I said, are you serious? And while I'm there in the program office, the warden calls. And they give me the phone, and the warden's like congratulating me and telling me, man, you worked hard to get this opportunity. He said, I'm telling you that there might be some red flags because you're the first to go home from this facility. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, is this real?
Did it feel surreal?
It did. It did.
Like a dream?
It was like,
fucking
what
this
the
shit?
heck? I was like, none of this makes sense. You know what I mean? I'm looking at my counselor, and he's sweating, and he's nervous. Like, they're putting the pressure on him to fill out. They didn't know what parole office I was going to. They didn't know the address I would go to. They didn't know nothing.
Have you ever met anybody with a similar story from that time frame?
Never.
Yeah, dude, that's
Never.
what I'm saying. That's a rare occasion. That's extremely rare. Dudes were
Yeah.
not paroling.
Yeah.
Lifers were not going home
They weren't going home.
in 2003.
Yeah. And I didn't even know what was going on in the embankment hearing. I didn't know the process of that. You know what I mean? I didn't know, but supposedly they found. I mean, it is. They found me suitable for
So
parole.
you were not even mentally prepared to go home. I mean, you had gotten the training to be a drug and alcohol counselor,
Yeah.
but I mean, as far as you going to the streets, mind probably was not there.
It wasn't. I wasn't thinking I was going home. You know what I mean? Because I didn't see nobody go home.
So did you
know?
go back to the yard and tell the homies like,
I
"Hey,
did.
I'm
I
going
went
home"?
back. I told them they were on lockdown already, though. They were already in their cells.
Yeah.
And they started banging on the door. They were all excited for me. They were all happy. And
Shoot your TV, shoot your.
yeah, well, my Sally, he was a lifer. He was a lifer. So I left everything. I just grabbed my pictures, all my legal paperwork, and that was it. I left everything, my hot pot, my
Yeah.
stingers, everything. I left my clothes, any extra stuff here. It's all yours, right? My Super 3, here you go.
Yeah.
Everything's right here. And that next morning, it was crazy because they came and they took out there was like 2 other guys that were leaving that day, right? And what happened is they didn't call my name, and everybody's like, "Hey, what about JoJo, man?
Right.
What's up?" And they were telling me like, they were like, "Yeah, he didn't get like they didn't call for your release." You know what I mean? So, anyways, as the day went on, that program, that drug program, they do what's called a graduation ceremony going home. So they set it all up, and I'm like, "Oh man, like they're setting me up, man." So in the middle of that little ceremony, the CO at the desk called my name over the intercom, and they take me. And there was other people in the building at the time that weren't supposed to be in there that were
Yeah.
just wanting to say their goodbyes. And when I walked out of that building, man, it was like a movie. I had northerns, blacks, whites, all the homies from down south. They were all lined up giving me hugs, and
That's
they were
what's up,
telling
dude.
me, "Man, you deserve it, fool. Like, for real, you deserve it. Like, go out there, make us all proud, man. Like, go handle that, And I came home. Well, I went to a program. I went to a residential program, stood there for, I stood in the program for like a year and a half of residential outpatient combined.
Yeah.
And no violations, man. My wife was waiting for me, the young lady that I told you about.
Right.
My son was already a teenager by this time. I ended up doing a little bit over 14. So I have a teenage son. I have a teenage son now. My wife from my youth, my wife was always by me though, man. God
Yeah.
blessed me with a good wife, and I had communication with my son all the time. He would always come visit me and stuff.
Yeah.
And here I was coming home to him. I paroled to downtown LA, and it was just unreal, man.
So I know now you mentioned, what is it that you do now? You said you assist the family members of.
Yeah, so I started an online community called Trapped Families. And what I do is I help families that are incarcerated. Because when I got out, a lot of people that knew me, even like my own homeboys, their families. I started off with my own homeboys' families, like just trying to be there for them. This time, I'm already a minister. I'm there, like just helping them through the process. A lot of them, their loved ones were just getting busted. I was helping a lot of their family get into drug treatments.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like 2 years. I was a behavioral modification counselor, substance abuse counselor from the time I got out all the way till almost 2017. And then that's when I started my own businesses. I'm doing life coaching today, and I also have my own pool business. I do
Awesome,
that.
dude.
I do that just for the serenity of
Right.
just being outdoors. I just love it. I'm my own boss. I do what I do,
How do people find you? You got a website or anything?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Just Trap Families all across the board on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube. They could find me that way. And what I do is on my podcast, I bring the families on to share their stories. And
Cool.
it's not as easy as some people think, to put your laundry out there. And I tell people, just share what you're comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause,
Right.
and it's hard. It's hard for a lot of these family members to deal with their loved ones incarcerated.
But it's good. I mean, that you're giving them the platform. It's good to let them know they're not the only ones going through it.
Yeah.
And they can network and work
yeah.
together through some of those challenges.
And my whole purpose in sharing my story, Hector, for real, it's not for fame and glory. It's really to give people hope that, you know what, you can change,
Absolutely,
I'm not one of them ones that went through, and my experience, Hector, through prison is a lot different through other people. Yeah, I battle with PTSD, you know what I mean? I still hear people yelling. I still, see blood splattering in dreams and stuff. I mean, not every night. I don't want
Right.
people to think I'm just, a freak like that where every night I'm
Yeah.
just crazy like that. But I still have my moments. Certain noises trigger certain reactions from me. But I just want people to know that, you don't gotta go to prison and just be a knucklehead, man. You could be your own person and still. People ask me all the time, how did you survive in there all them years, being a Christian, like going against the grain? I said, number one thing is common sense
Right.
and respect. I knew how to mind my own business. I knew how to navigate through the politics without having my nose everywhere. Like I said earlier, I know how to turn my head when things are happening where my name's not in the conversation of who saw
Yeah.
something or who knew something, or I'm not there meddling in
It's
the
street smart.
politics.
It's street smarts, dude.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And
Survivalism.
I think for me too, Hector, I think my prior life before Christ, gangbang, I knew a lot of people from them 2 years in juvenile. I knew a lot of people that were considered down homies that knew me. And, I'm not going to say that I was a down homie. I did what I did. But, if other homies may say, yeah, that fool was down for his because that's what I displayed.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, when I got to the county jail, I'm not going to mention some of the people that mentored me and took me under the wings, but they were of good standings. You know what I'm saying? Where they had some say so.
Yeah.
And it was them that I reported to when I decided to make this decision. And their words to me, they stuck with me. They said, you know what, Jojo? All power to you, man. Go and do what you got to do. Just don't play games with it. I didn't know what that meant, but later on, I seen people playing with religion, hiding behind, their Bible, their Quran or something, and end up getting dealt with, And for me, it's crazy because just like that gentleman out there right now, he did 30 years.
30?
Life for 30.
Damn, that's a
We started
long
off in
freaking
YA
time.
together.
Might have to interview that.
And
dude,
I
man.
have a lot of, I have so many, my wife trips off
Yeah.
me because I have so many friends from way back in juvenile hall that I still try to help today when
absolutely.
needed.
It's
I'm
all
still
about-
close to them. And I think my testimony, if anything, it stands pure because everybody's like, the person you were in there is who you are today. 30 years later, you're still the same guy. You never forgot where you came from.
Yeah.
You love the homies to a sense where you want them to do better. You get them in programs when needed.
Facts.
You done helped families with financial support when they got busted. I look out for my homies, and people always tell me, I'm not that one that got saved and forgot about my homies.
Right. No, I hear you, dude.
I just set boundaries, and there's like standards in my life now where, like I said, I would be out there playing on the handball court with all the homies. I'd be on the basketball court playing with the blacks.
Yeah.
I'd walk the yard with a bulldog. But I understood how much to be around the politics
Absolutely, dude.
without getting myself in the mix where now things are being questioned.
You're caught up in a wreck.
Exactly. I was a man of my word. I practiced integrity when I was a gangbanger. And when I became a Christian, I lived as a Christian. I didn't have one foot in, one foot out. And I think the homies recognized that where like, they didn't see me two-faced. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Of course, I'm not perfect, but thank God I never did anything out of my faith that was, where they said, oh, yeah, he's a fake. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And when I paroled, I'm proud to say, I paroled from the main line, with a good name, And at that time, there was no, I don't think there was any S&Y yards at that time in 2003. I don't even remember a lot of people. I mean, the terminology back then was like either you're in the hat or you're not in the hat, and that was it. There really wasn't like a PC population that I could remember.
Oh, dude, you would not even recognize the department today, man. Unrecognizable.
Yeah, man,
But,
it's crazy. I hear you, and I'd be like, especially the new
California model, man.
I'm
You get to
like,
play sports with the COs, give them high fives, hugs. It's just
it just sounds crazy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
cool. But-
I don't know. There's some people that are thinking
Yeah.
behind all that, but
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, dude, sharing your story, your testimony, bro. I'm glad we chopped it up because I know we had been in talks for like a
Yeah.
year and stuff. We finally made it happen, bro.
Yeah.
So just remind the viewers where they can find you again on the
yeah,
Instagram.
you could find me on Trap Families on Instagram. You could find me on TikTok, Trap Fam. I think it's Trap Fams. And then on Facebook, you could hit me up, Jojo Godinez. And on YouTube, it is Trap Families as well. And Hector, I thank you for your service, man. You know, I think that was one of the things that caught my attention when watching you. And man, you know, just some of the things you shared is like, I mean, you're just down to earth, bro. You're raw with it too, man. But I appreciate you. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you. There you guys have it, folks. Another banger, man. If you guys like what you saw, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll keep bringing it for you guys. Love you. Keep pushing forward.
You've been listening to Hector Bravo Unhinged. Follow for more.